Hey everybody, I'm Sam Brunel, and this is Beyond the Arc with myself and my new co-host, Antonio Clary. For those of you who don't know who we are that much or that well, I play women's basketball here at the University of Virginia, and Antonio plays for the football team. So we are super excited to be here on a podcast format. The show is actually in person before now, but we are excited to be more accessible now for folks out there in the community who want to, listen to our podcast and tune into what we got to talk about. So I'm gonna hand it over to Antonio real quick to fill you guys in on who he is a little bit since he's new to the show, and we'll get going.
What's going on, everyone? So my name is Antonio Clary, as Sam mentioned. I'm on the football team here at UVA, and I'm a rising fifth year. I'm currently in a master's program for educational psychology, and I graduate this May. And I'll be pursuing my football career this fall and then declaring for the draft. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, from the beach, so not from Virginia like Sam. But yeah, I love Virginia now since I've been here for going on my fifth year.
Yeah. And then like I said, I play women's basketball. I actually grad transferred to the University of Virginia this past year. So this is my first year playing at UVA. My situation is a little weird because I graduated in 3 years from Notre Dame. So I was a graduate student this year, and then I'm actually returning for my fifth year and final year this coming year. So I'm super excited to be able to do that. And I'm a local kid. I live about 25 minutes away. My hometown is about 25 minutes north of Charlottesville. So always grew up a UVA fan. It's great to be back home. Antonio is a great dude. So we're going to have a bunch of fun on this show. And we just want to give you guys a little inside scoop about what to expect. Basically, we want to just have fun, and we're going to do hot takes every week or every show that we do. We're going to do hot takes. We're going to have a guest on. We don't have a guest for this show because it's an intro for you guys, but we'll have a guest in the future, and we're just going to get to know them and get to know their story, as well as have a segment that's just about telling any story. So it can be a funny story, a serious story, whatever they want, and then dive into their journey. And then Antonio actually has come up with a game segment for us. So that'll be really fun for you guys to tune in for the shows to come. But today we're going to just do a little hot take segment and give you guys a little brief about what that's going to be like. So I'll let Antonio take us into that segment.
So for our first hot take segment of this year's podcast is going to be the LSU and Iowa situation with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So what are your thoughts about that? Just like your first, initial thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I know both of them actually just through playing basketball in high school. They're both a year younger than me. But we always competed together at like USA basketball trials and on the AAU circuit. Both of them are great players. They're great people. But this is a topic of interest since the game. And I think it's interesting. There's a lot of components that go into this and a lot of things that have negatively happened and some things that I think should be talked about. Knowing both of them, respect to both of them when we talk about this. But I do think a lot of people are bringing up the argument, Caitlin Clark, did the face thing the game before or whatever to South Carolina. And, she like waved off somebody that was at the 3-point line because they can't shoot at all. And they were like, well, if Caitlin Clark can do it, then why can't Angel Reese do it? The difference is that, like I like to argue, is Caitlin Clark was doing that during the game time. And trash talk is to be expected during a game. Like, that brings competitive edge to it.
Right.
So the difference was, like, Angel did what she did. She did her face thing, and she, like, pointed at her ring finger. Pretty cool to do. But she did it after the game. And I feel like when a game ends at that point, when you got two great players like Angel and Caitlin, like, me as a player, I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have honestly probably dapped her up and been like, great game, like, mad respect for you, because they're both great players and they got bright futures. So that's my take on it.
Right. I mean, I agree with you too. I think it's a big respect thing. I don't think that taunting is like a problem during the game, but after the game, I think it can get a little too far when you taunt after the game, because it's a respect thing. At the end of the day, you're competing. There's mixed emotions going on. And me personally, as a football player, there's constant mixed emotions going throughout the entire game. You trash talk, you get upset, and during the game is fine. Like during it, when Caitlin did it during the game, I know Angel did it sometimes during the game as well, but her doing it after the game, I think, was a little excessive. She could have just ended it right there during the game once the clock hit 0 and celebrated with her team.
Yeah.
gave her respect to Caitlin Clark and the rest of the Iowa team and then kept it moving from there. I don't think it should have went on after the game.
Yeah.
Yes, you're in a state of mind where you're excited. You just won the national championship against Iowa, and you've heard all this news about Caitlin Clark before y'all played her because the way she played against South Carolina when she waved the player off at the three-point line and then did this with her face throughout the game. But I don't think you should have attacked her. Not attacked her, but I don't think you should have kept it going after the game when the game's already over. Because during it is fine, but after it, as a sports player myself, everything, like my coach always told us, everything stays within the white lines. So after the game, you're shaking it up, you're giving respect to your opponent, and moving on from there. But anything that happened between the lines stays between the lines. So yeah, I don't think that should have prolonged after the clock hit
and
zero.
A big thing like with women's basketball that people talk about all the time is, women need to play the game of class, and like that's what it should look like. And it's not cool if women show emotion and do what Caitlin and Angel were doing. And I can say for myself, I actually was ejected from a game this year against Florida State, which was kind of crazy. And people had a lot to say on social media about it. But at the end of the day, emotion's going to happen within a game. Nobody's going to be perfect. And just because we're women, I feel like we're held at this standard to just look perfect all the time or act like a woman. And that's just to not be vocal and to not show your emotions like that. But I mean, I think Angel is a big, person in the forerun when it comes to, trying to be a difference maker and growing the game so that women can show emotion and play like the NBA players or play like, the guys do. Cause I feel like guys do that stuff all the time where they flex when they get an and one or whatever. Nothing happens. Nobody blows a whistle. But a lot of the time in women's basketball, they'll give you a technical just for being like and one or just showing your emotion. And I think it's a little ridiculous, honestly, because it takes away from the joy of the game in a way. You feel like you can't even be yourself out there. So I think that that's an area that for women's basketball is definitely, trying to make that change, but it's tough. And so I feel like this situation is an example of all that.
Oh, no. Yeah, I agree too on that. And like I told you before the podcast started, I don't think the women's basketball is no different than a men's game. You're going to have the same emotions. You're going to yell, you're going to scream, you're going to talk your trash all you want. And I don't think Angel Reese did anything wrong. She can talk trash all she wants. She can do all the taunting she wants, but let that be during the game instead of after the game. Once it's already over, both teams played a heck of a game. And I don't think that the trash talking should have kept going after. And when people said, oh, Caitlin Clark this and that, and then Angel Reese this and that, that doesn't matter. I don't think the trash talking is trash talking at the end of the day, but it just doesn't need to happen after. So but at the end of the day, the men's game and the women's game, it's no different. And Caitlin Clark recently, they recently shared that she was defending Angel Reese and saying that taunting is fine and it's fine. It's great for competitiveness and stuff like that, and that's going to bring more fans to the games. And that's what the women's sport wants, is to bring more fans to the basketball game. So if they're the start of it, then that's good for women's basketball. I don't think there's a problem with what just went down when they play Sunday. I don't think there's a problem with what went down. It was just the fact that it went on after maybe a little bit, but
and views are growing. I mean, they had record numbers this year for viewership for the games. Actually, I'm pretty sure they had more views for the tournament games than for an NBA game, the most viewed NBA game this year, which is amazing. And the crowd that they had at the game was amazing. It was loud. You could hear it on TV. It was amazing. I mean, to see that and to know that the game's growing in that way.
Exactly.
It'll be good when there starts to be consistency with that. But I wanted to talk about another aspect of this because some people don't do enough digging before they choose to have their opinions on matters like this. But I was scrolling through Twitter and there was legit a video of Alexis Morris, who plays for LSU. And I'm going to backtrack for a second. So Angel Reese was saying in her press conference that, the reason she was doing all of that was because she was Caitlin Clark was disrespecting, for one, South Carolina, who's in the SEC with them. And she was disrespecting Alexis, which, I don't know to the extent of, was that just because she wasn't guarding her super close or what that was, but she said that in her press conference. But before the game, the championship game, Alexis Morris was literally standing in the hallway, like waiting to see Caitlin Clark. And she said on this video, I'm like excited to meet her. I'm excited to play against her. Like, this girl is legit. She is good. Like, she was giving her respect.
Right.
And so, like, people don't always do their homework and see, like, it's not like it's coming from an ill place when people show emotion, especially women show emotion in a game and do like this stuff, like, you know, whatever. But, you know, there was respect there by both of them. And Caitlin Clark ended up walking out in the video and like they spoke and they talked to each other respectfully and like showed there was mutual respect. So I feel like people also got to do their homework before they comment on social media sometimes, because then they look dumb at the end when it's like they're stating an opinion, but they don't know all the facts. So.
Exactly. Now, people that talk on social media about a topic and they don't have any idea of like what it's about, yeah, that kind of gets on my nerves, because like you didn't watch the game, you weren't there, like you probably didn't follow them the entire season, so you don't know what they've been through, and at the end of the day, like, it's sports. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Taunting is going to happen. It's just at the end of the game, you're going to have that respect for that player. Because Caitlin Clark she might taunt during the game, but after the game, she shows her respect as well. So
yeah, and Caitlin didn't show any emotion to what Angel Reese was doing.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it wasn't personal in that way, because if it was personal, like, Caitlin would have reacted or done something back, and it wasn't that way. And Caitlin's press conference actually was really impressive in how she answered the questions in regards to that. And she was just like, you know, it happens. And she made it about her team, which was a good response, a very mature response. So it was really cool to see that on her part. But I mean, I think this is something you're going to continue to see in women's basketball, continue to grow and happen more, especially with Angel Reese. She's, I think, got a few more years left, like with her still in the game and, you know, influencing it in that way and being a role model in that way to just allow, like, say to women, look, you can do this out here on the court. Don't hold back your emotions. Like, play your game. And every player is different. There's players that play silently, and there's players who play loudly, like Angel. So it's just going to depend on, you know, who you're playing, who the person is, and that's just part of the game. It's part of competition. So
exactly. And I mean, who knows? Next year they might face each other again during the tournament, and that's going to bring a crowd out. So
oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting because Iowa loses their star post player, but they keep their 40-point player.
Best player in the
they got Caitlin back. So, you know, it'll be interesting. The women's game's growing. Like, even in the ACC this year, like, there was at one point 5 or 6 teams in our conference that were ranked. And they took, I think, like 8 teams from our conference to the tournament. So, and, you know, SEC is great. They're very physical. Pac-12 continues to have people make it every year. Like, a bunch of women's basketball is growing, and there's just a lot of talent everywhere. And I think that makes it really interesting, because for a while in women's basketball, it was like UConn wins. And, you know, it's nice to have a narrative change. And I feel like that's been happening the past few years. And it's always fun to see somebody new win, somebody new, like, make that Cinderella story in the tournament, especially like the men's tournament this year.
That was the men's tournament.
That was crazy.
I didn't expect that at all.
That final was.
I didn't watch FAU all year.
Me either.
Until the tournament, and I didn't watch them until they made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I mean, but I guess that's why they call it March Madness, because
you see teams show up in March that you are just like, where were they months ago? Yeah. Why weren't they playing like this months ago?
Exactly. But I mean, even UConn, like, they were a great team, but they were the 4th seed. Not saying there's they had to prove it. They weren't even the number 1 seed in their division. So they just, I mean
UVA
exactly
went out early.
Exactly.
But we know when that happens, we win a championship the next year. So maybe that's what that means.
Yeah, hopefully that's what happens next year. But yeah, I think that women's basketball is trending in the right direction, especially after this game, and showing what, you know, Caitlin Clark, superstars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and other superstars as well.
Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd. Yeah, there's, and especially in the NIL space, like these women are making millions. Like, I know Caitlin Clark makes over $1 million.
Exactly.
And, you know, she does one of her NIL endorsements, she does for free because she wants to give back to the community. And I think that's another cool thing. Like, these women, they look a certain way in the court maybe, but their platforms, they're using it for the betterment of whatever it may be. And maybe they're making money from it, but these are platforms and companies that they believe in and, you know, match up with their brand. So I'm excited to see how women's basketball continues to trend in the future, and having one more year to be a part of that will be really special. But it's going to take people, like you said, like Caitlin and Angel to really make noise and, be those role models for the future of women's basketball to come in and be like, I can be like her.
Exactly.
They can
Who knows?
do that.
Maybe NIL might be a hot take one day. We talk about it.
Yeah, we'll have to bring up NIL in a future hot take.
Because you can make a lot of money out there, especially Caitlin Clark making, $1 million. That's more than what she could make in the WNBA, like we talked about before this podcast. So
absolutely,
it's given those basketball players and anyone in sports in college to really set themselves up for success later on in life, just from their platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot to look forward to, and what we just did, y'all, is what you can look forward to for hot takes. We get juicy with it. We dove in a little bit with it today, but we got some really cool subjects to talk about. And in the future, we'll have a guest with us too. So it'll be cool to see their takes on things and get to know different people in the UVA community, different student athletes. So that's the kind of stuff you guys have to look forward to. But a little intro for you guys today. And we hope that you guys share this with your family, with your friends, people around the community. And, just listen to us, watch us, and Beyond the Arc is going to keep growing. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Sam.
I'm Antonio.
And we'll catch you later.